Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Closeup. I'm your host, Joe.
And I'm Justin.
We got a review of Tron Ares for you. A couple weeks late, but whatever. We saw it. We want to talk about it. Nobody else is really watching it right now. We might convince you one way or another. We're going to do a full spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen it already, you probably don't care, but maybe we can convince you. I don't know. And this will probably also be spoiler heavy for Tron Legacy and the original Tron as well. I'm sure they'll come up in large quantities.
Oh, they're like 15-year-old movies at least, so...
Yeah, the first one's 15, the other one's 40.
I don't think they're worried about spoilers for them.
No.
I would hope not.
No. Yeah, so Tron Ares, getting into our close-up. Ares is, for me at least, the most visually stunning film I've seen in 2025 so far, but suffers for its story execution. Is my take on it. I think you liked it more than I did. Correct?
I tend to agree to the most part. I mean, obviously, story is not its top marks, basically, but...
Look, let me get this out of the way. I don't love any of the Tron movies. They're at least not for their story. I think every single one has been pretty weak script-wise. I watched Tron for the soundtracks and for the visual effects. And it delivers that. It gave me what
the story's functional and passable.
It gave me what I wanted out of a Tron movie, for what it's worth. That's why I give it marks, not because I think it's good, but because it completely and totally met my expectations for what I thought it was going to be going in, based on the last two.
Mm-hmm.
The first one never really impressed me. I only watched it the first time a couple years ago when I did a Legacy rewatch for one of the original close-up episodes, which was In Defense of Tron Legacy, which... What I said about that at the time, I do stand by, whilst at the same time not thinking it's great. I think it's underrated in many regards, and it's a rightful cult classic. Tron Ares, I can also see gaining cult classic status in a couple of years for the same reasons. It does enough right that it can garner a following of film fans who really appreciate its greatest strengths, which are, funny enough, very similar to Tron Legacy's strengths. But the only reason I think Tron Legacy stands ahead of this one is more because it's tied to the original in a more blatant way. Jeff Bridges is a lot more prominent in it, and it's about his son and set more in the grid, and it was showing us stuff we really hadn't seen before. It was like 30 years late. It was kind of the first Legacy sequel, I figure, of any real substance, and it really pushed visual effects forward in movies and gave us a world we'd never really seen before in the 21st century. This kind of just did what Tron Legacy did, but a little more polished with 2025 effects.
Fair. I do think that it has more to it. Like, the visual effects are like spectacularly
phenomenal. Phenomenal. I didn't really see any seams in it. I never had my immersion broken by poor CGI or weird choreography or just anything like that. It's a pretty seamless effect all the way through.
Yeah. And they somehow sold me on Jared Leto.
Yeah. He was sort of the big red flag of this going in for a lot of people. He's arguably the reason a lot of people didn't go see it at all.
Well, I think that's like the first trailer. Like, I don't know, everything about the first trailer, I looked at it, I'm like, 1, Jared Leto. Okay. I don't know how I feel about that. 2, oh, they're bringing Tron stuff into the real world. Okay, this is probably going to be dumb.
Which maybe I just needed explained to me, but I don't really get the problem with Jared Leto. I know it's kind of a thing to hate on him, but I don't. Like, he seems like kind of a weird guy, but he's a good actor, so
I have no idea. I don't know.
It's like when everyone hated on Anne Hathaway 10 years ago for some reason, except she's a perfectly nice person from what I've seen of her, and that was arguably even more undeserved.
Maybe we need a close-up episode on that.
Celebrities who people just hate for fun.
Like Nickelback.
Yeah, Nickelback's another one randomly. Like, there's just certain things out there that I'm like, you're not even hated on for anything specific, I feel like. I just don't get the hate for Jared Leto.
I don't know. I just don't like his acting usually. That's me in particular. I'm not like a super hater, but I don't like his acting.
I've seen him in stuff I enjoyed. I've seen him in stuff I haven't.
I've seen him in a lot of stuff that I just have not. Like, he's the worst actor in a lot of things that I've seen.
Well, I think with Jared Leto, the thing is, it's not his acting ability I don't like. It's the choices he makes.
Yes,
as an actor.
Yeah,
I think the one that comes to mind is when he played Paolo Gucci in House of Gucci. He sounded like Mario, and like none of the other characters sounded like that. And he was playing a real guy who did not sound like that. Was the thing.
See,
it was a choice. It was entertaining in context, but I'm like, well, why are you doing this?
See, Jared Leto. So anyways, I didn't go into this movie with very high hopes, and I came out pretty blown away, so...
Yeah, I thought he was a pretty solid lead as Ares. He was appropriately charismatic and handled the badass parts pretty well. I don't know how much of that was stunt work. I mean, I assume probably a good deal of it because he was behind a mask for a lot of it, but...
Yeah, in like the first, third, maybe half? No, like at the first third.
I'm sure he did some of the hand-to-hand combat, but I highly doubt he was on the motorcycles and all that for those sections.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those ones definitely not. But the speaking of the action, the fight scenes were done excellently. Like, the choreography for all the fight scenes was incredible. I thought that was a major highlight there.
I liked some of it, and others I was a little bit less impressed. I was more impressed by the visual effects blending with reality when it came to those action scenes than I was with the actual choreography, which I'm like, okay, you're making it look kind of cool, but I'm more blown away by, wow, spectacle and the lights on your suit and the light discs and the staves with the lasers on them than I was with actual, like, if you stripped all that away, I think it's a little less interesting. Maybe. It's just the fact that they blended the visual effects in there to give you a little added spectacle with it that made it interesting to me. I think something like Tron Legacy I think the choreography in that was better. Because I think in this one, they were cutting around the fights a lot more. It was just more fast-paced editing, where they didn't let you sit in one spot and just watch what was happening for long enough to really get an opinion.
Well, I think that was the style of the film, though, because the whole way it was edited and the whole way it ran was a part of this pacing. The pacing took off when, like, basically it's one sequence from she gets off the plane to the end of the movie.
Yep.
It's pretty much nonstop. Like, it goes through its ups and downs, but it's pretty well from that point to the end is all one sequence. So that fast pacing and the fast cuts, I don't think that was necessarily to get around doing the stunt work, because I thought the choreography, like some of the choreography shots that were done in one shot were really, really well done.
Yep.
I do remember a few standout shots for sure. So I don't think it was that they were trying to hide the choreography or anything, or hide anything. I think it was just the style they were doing is it required faster pacing. Like, they wanted the pace to feel fast, because that's the thing with Tron is the light bikes are fast, right?
Well, when it comes to the actual hand-to-hand combat, I think a large problem I had with it was that nothing ever felt like a threat to Ares. There were threats around them. The bad guys felt pretty tough when they were up against, what was her name? Eve. But when they were against Ares in particular, I'm like, okay, he's just beating them all pretty easily. And they never felt like he actually had to think on his feet or use the environment around him or pull off some really cool moves when his back's up against a corner or something. It just felt like, okay, these are just low-level grunts I'm just taking out because I'm the best. And he was. I'm not.
I'd argue that the point wasn't that he wasn't the best. He was the best.
He was the best.
But
yeah.
every time he came up against something, there was something else that was the problem. The first time it was, I'm on the clock. I'm running out of time. We've only got 50 seconds for me to get in this machine or I'm done.
Yep.
Right? So it wasn't the fight. It wasn't the fights that were actually the tough part. It was the fact that it was like, okay, I guess that kind of came down to all of it was kind of his own mortality, really.
Yep.
Because it's like, okay, the first one was the first major time that he was kind of at a loss was, oh, if I'm gone now, I'm not getting back on that server. I'm done.
Yep.
And the other one was the Athena fight at the end where it's like, okay, you got, Jeff Bridges is like, you got one life basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, this is now, he can't go in all cocky. And I think that's goes back to his initial training where they trained him as like, kind of like an AI. Okay, you keep going, get better.
Every time
you die, you get better, you get better, you get better. But the flaw in that is that
it teaches him that death is okay because you get a respawn.
Yeah, you get a respawn. So he's always kind of had a respawn. He gets to reset, especially like even because he's obviously favoritized by Dillinger.
Mm-hmm.
So he's constantly gotten respawns every time, even when the other guy screwed up, they're like, oh, no, we didn't bring him back, but we're bringing you back every single time. So I think that's the difference is that his training, yeah, he might be the best, but he's taught to be less protective of himself, really. If you think about it, he's more goal oriented. So
yes,
he doesn't have that self-preservation aspect to him.
and that's a big difference between him and Athena, he learns self-preservation and really the idea of what it means to just have one life, where she's very mission oriented and it doesn't matter what happens to me, I'm finishing the mission.
Mm-hmm. And well, that's why I think it was all right that he was obviously the best. We didn't really think he was going to lose, but the stakes were still there from the story.
Yep.
I think.
Now, in terms of action, I think my favorite set piece was the light cycle chase through the city.
That was cool. That was really well done.
Watching the trailer initially, the part that had me most tepid about going into this movie was the fact that the grid was coming into reality and blending those elements with a regular city. I'm like, this feels gimmicky and lame and this sucks. And then in execution, it actually turned out pretty cool.
Well, they used it really sparingly, right? Like between the whole thing, we got 2 light bikes and the big flying thing, whatever it's called.
Yeah, that thing
with all of its little drones later,
the square thing,
the square flying thing.
Yeah,
but it was used pretty sparingly. Actually, basically all of those things that we saw were in the trailer. So
yeah, and Athena used the glider.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Yeah. So, but it wasn't as I was thinking like a full blown war between the programs and humans. Like I'm thinking like a full scale invasion from the trailer, but it did not.
Well, I mean, even
go that way.
Even in the first act, Dillinger's selling this technology to the military, and I'm like, that's what this movie's gonna be. Is he brings a whole military force, and the whole thing's set in regular world, and a lot of it is, but that's not where it went, which I was happy to see.
Well, even early, like that was pretty early on into the movie, and I was a little hesitant there. But then when Ares goes and kind of like notices the rain was when I was like, okay, I'm getting a different feel from this movie than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So then I wasn't sure what to expect anymore.
Yeah. My only problem, and this is probably me being nitpicky, but when they bring that technology in, my suspension of disbelief started to get threatened because I didn't understand the rules of the technology. I'm like, okay, so when you put it in the grid, I'm like, this is a fantastical world. I don't really care what this technology does in the grid because it's a fantasy world. It can do anything. But then you throw that technology into the real world and it doesn't follow real world physics. I'm like, okay, so is it, if you can bring this stuff into the real world, is it possible to build these things in the real world? If you can basically make them like a Lego piece that's transporting them from the grid, is it possible to build these things in real life with these physics, but they don't follow real world physics using the machines in the real world? So I'm like,
What do you mean? Like,
well, I think of scenes like when the motorbike stopped on a dime, and I'm like, okay, well, like bikes in our world can't do that. I don't know if Dillinger, if he was a person who could build a bike, if he could make a bike like that, or if it's just because that bike is from the grid. But if you can take a bike from the grid to do that, couldn't you theoretically build one? So I'm like, is the technology in the world really that good, or is it?
I mean, they've got lasers that can assemble stuff like a 3D printer and out of nothing. It's just built out of light. So
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that technology is very, very advanced already. Like they were able to have lasers that one could build things from nothing, two disassemble things and put them in the virtual world. So I'd say their technology is already pretty out there.
Yeah, it stretched my disbelief a bit to see these technologies interacting with the real world, but still having grid physics attached to them. Where I'm like, okay, it just feels different when it's in the grid. I don't care. But I start getting a little nitpicky when it's in the real world. And that just might be a me problem, but it wasn't even that bad, but it just took me out of it a bit. It's like you're making me think about this now movie. I don't want to have to think about this stuff. I just want to be immersed.
Yeah, I can't argue against it because I can't remember the exact thing you're talking about, but
Well, that's the main instance that stood out, but it's just basically all this technology interacting with the real world that makes me think about the logic of it, and it takes me out, that's all. But production design in this movie was pretty stunning. I loved seeing the physical light bike specifically.
mm-hmm.
Like, that's a really cool motorbike. And it's interesting how the costumes look more armored than in prior movies. The other ones nearly look more, not cloth exactly, but it seemed a bit more free form in a way, whereas this seemed like soldiers built for military purposes.
Well, I think that was the purpose was like Tron Legacy, you know, both Tron Legacy and Tron Ares are showing the legacy that split off from the original movie. Like this one leaned way heavier on the original movie than I expected it would.
It's more of a sequel to the original than it is to Legacy.
So really, Tron Legacy was, you know, followed Flynn's private grid or whatever, and you know, that's one side, and then this movie followed Dillinger's grid, so it's a totally different kind of experience seeing the different sides to it.
Yep.
So I think that's pretty interesting what they're doing. Like I think they're setting up for a fourth movie where everything's going to connect, obviously, based on the ending.
Very likely.
And the fact that they've kind of got a legacy stand-in for each character in the original movie, basically.
Yeah.
Like they've got Flynn's grandson, you know, Dillinger's grandson, who's paired up with the original, Tron's original villain, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? Sark.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Ares, who's probably Tron.
Yeah, okay, let's address that point.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't reveal it in this one. I really thought that he was going to be Tron. There's a couple hints, but
They didn't spell it out. And
No.
you explained it pretty well on the spot to me after we finished the movie and I turned to you and my very first note I wrote down was 2 thumbs down, no Tron.
no Tron.
And then you tried to explain to me, okay, but hold on a second. I think Ares was in fact Tron.
Yeah. I do think he probably was Tron. Just because, like, you know, there's 3 main instances of the grid that we know about now. There's Flynn's personal one, where so you've got the original grid, where Tron is dead in the original movie. Then you've got Flynn's private copy of the grid, where Tron turns evil and then he dies at the end, or well, he doesn't die. He goes into some stream of consciousness thing. He's essentially dead.
Yeah.
Then you've got Dillinger's grid in this movie, and you're telling me he stole this grid from them and then didn't use the most advanced, you know, the most advanced soldier they had in the thing. I think they just personality wiped him basically, and then we're like, okay, let's continue to build on that and make you even more powerful.
So the fact that he stole the grid in its entirety and then built on it. It built off his version of a base. So the version he stole would have a version of Tron in it.
So if you're the guy who's known for just stealing stuff, are you really gonna steal stuff and then you're like, I'm gonna build my own guy from scratch? Yeah, right.
You're just gonna reprogram him and brainwash him, and you're Ares now.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was part of the point of this movie was that Flynn's grid, they became characters. He leaned more. The programs became more real. Where
They
this one
developed a whole society.
Well, yeah, they did. They developed real personalities and real stuff. This one was the opposite. This one stripped everything away and made them tools.
Yes.
Or at least tried to.
They're soldiers. It's very utilitarian. Everything's got a purpose, and that purpose is what Dillinger says.
Mm-hmm. But I think the fact that Tron being the way he is, that was kind of ingrained in him still, which is what made Ares, like, from his very first moments, he's already kind of doubting what he's being fed. And like, he was from the beginning of the movie, basically, he was doubting everything. He still doubted everything, but he didn't bring it to the surface till way later.
Yes.
So I think the fact that he was already there, I don't know. But I think that's the thing is, like, right, I said both the sequel movies are about legacies. You got Flynn's legacy, you've got Dillinger's legacy.
Mm-hmm. It's the branching.
You know, Sark's legacy, because they're not one for ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Flynn's grandson is a little different. He's different. Sark is going to be different because he's blended with Dillinger. And this isn't, we're not seeing Tron, like Ares isn't Tron, but he is a legacy following Tron. He's built on Tron's programming, so...
Tron is like the base layer that everything else is built on top of.
Yeah. So to me, that sort of solidifies the theory. If that's what they're going to do with the fourth movie, is everybody's kind of got a representation there, and it's like, okay, this is the legacy of Tron. This is the legacy of Flynn. So I think it'll be interesting when they kind of pair everything up in the fourth one.
If they can tie it all together.
I hope they don't take another 15 years to do it, but
yeah. We'll see what happens there. Because this movie is not doing well right now, comparatively. I mean, it's still high up on the box office charts, but we're in a pretty low period for box office in general.
Doing well for a Tron movie.
I suppose it is.
Every single Tron movie has done bad at the box office, and then somehow made tons of money later.
Okay, but look, that's the thing. You know that. I know that. A lot of people on the internet will argue that. But when it comes to Hollywood business, most executives don't say, we're going to make a Tron movie, and the last one took like 15 years to make a profit. But you know what? When we make the next Tron movie, oh no, it's underdeveloping. Oh, we're done. We're done with it. It's not making money. And nobody says, it probably will be profitable later, like all the other ones were only cult classics after the fact. No, Tron Ares bomb. That's it. We're done. We're finished with Tron. And then in 15 years, the cycle goes again. Because executives see low numbers and they panic. They don't look at the trends. Ares is not doing good today, therefore Tron's ruined. Even though in a couple years it'll probably be more well regarded. For what it did well, there might be a little bit of appetite for it.
A little off topic. I mean, going back to stuff. Something that I thought was a really neat piece of like subtle acting, sort of, was, well, one, I was thinking about it because I'm like, okay, Ares threw away his identity disc, which should be a big thing, but it's not because he doesn't really have a personality, so the identity disc doesn't really matter in Dillinger's grid. But something I thought was interesting was that after that point, after he threw the disc away, before he left the grid the first time, there's a lot of times where the action starts and he goes to reach for it, and then he remembers that he doesn't have it. And there was one time at the end fight where he realized he didn't have it, and it was made more of a deal. But all the way through the movie, every time action would start, that was like, there would be a time during the action or right before the action where he would go to reach for it and find it not there, like just a quick reach back, and then he's got to find something else. And I thought that was really, really cool that they actually thought about that. That it's like, okay, his first reaction, pretty much that we saw in his training thing, was to grab the disc every time.
Good catch.
I just thought that was really well done too.
I did not notice that. So, one big highlight of Tron tends to be its soundtracks, and I thought the 9 Inch Nails soundtrack was incredible. It's not even really my kind of music, but it, that vibe was stuck in my head for days afterwards.
Yeah, it drove the theme pretty well, I thought.
It complemented the world pretty nicely. It sounded techno-futuristic and just really cool, and built the mood scene by scene pretty nicely as well.
Well, and I think it really, comparing the two between Legacy and Ares, I think the two soundtracks kind of, just without even seeing the movies, you could listen to the soundtrack and pin down kind of at least the thematic difference between the two, right?
Yes.
Just because this one, you can tell it's a bit more...
It's aggressive.
Yeah, it's more aggressive, it's dark, it's not...
Yeah. Because this one, we're basically following all the red guys. There's only one scene with blue guys, and they were ripping them all to shreds. And then there was apparently one of those guys was Cameron Monaghan. I'm like, is that Cameron Monaghan? Not the red guy, but like the guy he saved who lost his leg. And I'm like,
it wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, why is Cameron Monaghan in here? He didn't even get a line. What? Like, that's so random.
You know what? If you're an actor who can get into things, wouldn't you be like, can I cameo in Tron? Because I'd be like, that'd be cool.
I saw his face and it took me like 20 seconds. I'm like, who is? Oh, that's Cameron Monaghan. Interesting. Yeah, so what else about Tron? Yeah, we haven't talked about the script at all. Like, we've gone on for a very long time talking about the parts of Tron that were actually good. But the script I thought was weak. And I'll tell you what my main gripe was. It wasn't the story itself. I think the story had potential. The idea of, it's basically Pinocchio. He's this AI who's trying to be a real boy or get feelings or experience the world, whatever. That kind of story has been done. It's been proven. It's good. I think the weak part of the script is that everybody's arcs feel incomplete. I feel like they started in a place, most of the characters ended in a place, but I feel like I didn't see enough of the progression to get from A to B. The movie tells me these changes took place, but I didn't really see how we got there. Like, for example, at the start of the movie, Ares is very, I'm doing my mission, and I have a little bit of self-doubt. Okay, I'm starting to see the seeds of a change. But then later on in the movie, he's like this actually kind of cool guy who like loves 80s and Depeche Mode and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, where was this transition? I didn't see anything of him like discovering the 1980s or like developing a personality like that. He just sort of, like, I saw his self-doubt about his role in Dillinger's system, and then he sort of just developed a personality that I didn't see the seeds of. And then I'm like, okay, I like the character. I enjoy seeing this play out, but it just gave me a bit of whiplash in retrospect when I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't see the arc here. And like everybody sort of had that. Like Dillinger is, for another example, he very much went from, I can control this, I'm good, it's fine, you guys are just my tools, to basically right away he was like, oh, I bit off more than I could chew here. The machines are out of control, and oops, I lost, I'm out of my depth. And there wasn't really a transitional point, despite his mom constantly telling him, you're out of your depth, you're out of your depth, you're out of your depth. It was just like a turn on a dime moment when he actually lost control, where he realized he was right the whole time.
How does that have to do with his character arc, though?
That's what I'm saying.
I thought that was the point, is that his arc was that he pushed so far until he was proven completely wrong in his face. Like, oh, like it was a hard realization. Like, I see, this is out of control. I didn't listen to anybody.
But that just seems to be how the movie wrote everybody's arc, is they have a direction, and then they kind of did hard pivots at a certain point. Some of them had more transitional beats than others, but I didn't really feel an arc. It was more like a line with a couple of bumps in it for most of the characters. So that's why I didn't really feel emotionally satisfied from their A to B, because I don't really feel like I experienced a journey with any of them. I just sort of watched some new personality traits develop over time, or some worldviews get slightly challenged. I'm like, okay, it wasn't not thought out at all, but I didn't see the progression there. I feel like there's 10 to 15 minutes of this movie that were on the chopping block that had a bit more of those transitional elements in there, because I'm like, I see it. I see somebody thought about this, and there's nothing to show for it, but it's nearly like math. I'm like, I don't, like, show me your work. I don't see the work in there.
Well, I think you giving Dillinger as an example is not very good, because if anybody, I think he had the most complete arc out of all the characters. We saw him hesitate to do full-blown murder. Then he went to like, I'm going to do full-blown murder. That's okay. Then he went to like, okay, we'll go a little further. Every time it was, we'll go a little further until it's like, oh, wait, maybe I shouldn't have gone that far. Right? I think that one had one of the most complete arcs out of all of the characters. So I don't know why you're saying that one specifically as an example.
Well, maybe because the payoff felt hollow. He didn't really suffer for anything. Like, the police got to him, and his reputation's tarnished, but nothing, like his mom died, but he just didn't feel like he personally got any comeuppance for it. He went into the grid and got more powerful in the end for all of it. He had a momentary, oh, this is out of my control, and then he pivoted.
Did he, though? Because he basically went from having the free will to do whatever he wanted, but by the end, he's now trapped in the grid of the system that, like everything else, is out of his control, to the point where now he's in the control of the system. He's not even controlling the system. He's now a program in the system.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's like, oh, okay, I gotta take a disc now, and everything's destroyed here. Oh, this isn't good.
Yeah. Well, I guess I need to think out my arguments a little bit better, but suffice it to say, I wasn't satisfied by the arcs in this movie. I'm just trying to argue some reasons, perhaps why.
I did think that that's why I didn't argue it on Ares' kind of arc, because
Well, you see
I
what
do
I'm
think
saying.
it was a little bit jarring, but they were also kind of going with the supercomputer, he knows everything sort of stuff. Like,
And some people might complain a little bit more than I would about it, because like the first act I think had very strong visual storytelling when he's examining stuff in like on the internet to try and learn a couple of things. I'm like, okay, so maybe some people didn't catch those elements where he's visually learning and growing by experiencing things. He doesn't like, he talked about the rain briefly, but you know, it's like you see him look at it and whatnot. Like there's a lot of visual cues to these things that, okay, maybe flew under the radar. But I think most of those were in the first act that I noticed. And then the second act, it just didn't really have anything to base change off of. Or at least not that I saw. People were just kind of different.
well, I think that was the thing, is that the change sort of, for Ares, the change sort of happened in the first act. That's why he broke free and rebelled in the first place. And then he had a bit of a little bit more of a transition when you know he's with Jeff Bridges, and it's like, okay, you're gonna be alive now.
Yeah. I just think all I would have needed from it to be more satisfied with Ares is just some realization of human culture, which he seems to value so much by Act 2 and Act 3. Act 1 is like, I understand I want to be more than just a program, but his Act 2 arc of trying to be human before he actually gets the permanence program, I think that's where it dropped the ball, because I didn't see how he just like, oh, and I liked human culture all along. I'm like, but I didn't see any of that, literally none of that. I saw your arc about not wanting to be just a tool. I got that far. And then there's just something missing in the middle. And I only notice it because the first act was well done that way. Like for these characters, just in general, I like the setup, but I didn't feel the payoff. And I barely remember Eve's arc right now. She just didn't feel like she was living up to her sister's memory. She was just like, oh, I just make video games. My sister was trying to change the world. And then it's like, okay, well, I guess she got convinced not to quit in the end. She got convinced to do better with technology. I'm like, it's weak too. She did go from A to B, but I didn't feel the transition. There might be points in there you could argue were there, but I just didn't feel it over time.
Yeah, I think she was the weakest character.
Easy. Okay.
And some of her acting was a little wooden, especially at the beginning.
Yep. I think her facial acting's okay, but her
dialogue delivery in the first I guess the first third of the movie basically was not.
Yeah, and then there's entire things like there was that program of Flynn's that they found right at the very beginning, and then later on they're like, oh, and this exact same program is in the main office in the city. I'm like, what? What was the first 20 minutes for? Why are you all the way out in this snow-capped place in a remote computer trying to find old floppy disks if this exact same thing was in your head office?
See, to me, I feel like some of the subtext is buried. Like, it doesn't necessarily spell everything out. So it's like, okay, it's not necessarily there. But to me, dealing with technology, and you're like, you fiddle with one line of code, you're never going to put it back together. Never. Which is why, to me, I sit there, I'm like, okay, it makes sense that they have a backup that she's way up in there and doesn't want it all discovered. And that's the stuff she's going through. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But like also the main computer being like, you'd think if it's that valuable that it would be locked up somewhere a little bit safer.
Look, going back to what I said before, that's my main problem. I see somebody thought some of this stuff out, but show me the work. I think this is a rare case where I think a movie could have used more exposition in its character development and its world building. There's just stuff that I think is there if you really are grasping at straws to put the pieces together, but I didn't feel it was well explained. I was a little lost. I feel like some of these things didn't need to be plot holes and maybe wouldn't have been with one line of explanation.
I don't know. I just think there a lot of it relies on you knowing like kind of how certain archetypes work. Like Tron is sort of like Data, or I mean Ares is sort of like Data from Star Trek.
Yep.
And sort of that kind of plays into it. But I think a lot of it was in service of keeping the pacing going. Because that is the one thing that I don't think anybody can argue with this movie, is that the pacing was phenomenal. It was paced perfectly.
No, it felt
and I
good.
think that's some of that is probably why there's not as much exposition as you would like. But I think it gets across its main points pretty well and does it in a reasonable amount of time. Like, I think adding any more to it would just make it feel too long. Like, I was worried when I looked at it. I'm like, how long is it? It's like, what, 2 hours and 35 minutes or something?
I don't think it was quite that long.
Wasn't it? I thought it was pretty long.
Tron,
but it didn't feel like it.
No, it's 2 hours.
Oh, was it 2 hours?
Yeah.
Bang on?
Yep. Well, 1:59.
Oh. Why did I think it was longer? All right, maybe I can't do math. Anyways, it was pretty breezy for a 2-hour movie. 2 hours is still pretty long.
I wouldn't call it breezy, but it didn't feel any longer or shorter than it was. It felt right for what it was trying to do.
I don't know. I thought it moved along excellently. I don't think it dragged whatsoever the entire time.
Well, I didn't feel like checking my watch. I was never bored.
Hmm.
I wasn't always fully invested in it, but I was never bored. Because great soundtrack and pretty pictures. Not to sound like a shill for Disney, but I do recommend seeing this in 3D.
The 3D was so good.
If you happen to want to go to see this in theaters, or you have a great home video setup that you can watch it when it comes to streaming.
Right when we got in, we had a little micro discussion about, like, I'm like, yeah, I wish they didn't do 3D like Avatar did, where it's so subtle that it barely matters. I'm like, I kind of want a little bit of the, I don't need it to reach out and grab me in the face, but like a little bit more of that. And then this movie had a little bit of that.
I was impressed with it right from the Disney logo. The lasers shoot on the screen and do a stylized Disney logo. And I'm like, yes, this movie was actually filmed for 3D and not post-converted.
Yeah, it was.
The effects people did a good job. Every scene had a great level of depth to it, and especially the shots in the grid, where I'm like, I want a whole movie of this.
Well, the one that blew me away when I saw it was when they're hacking Eve's personality, and Ares is walking up the staircase, and then you can tell that the staircase kind of just starts merging into a flat surface.
Yep.
But it still looks like a staircase, and he just starts walking. I was like, all in one shot. It's just, I'm like, whoa, I don't know how that'll work without 3D, but that looks super cool in 3D.
Yes, this was a movie shot for 3D, and you can tell it makes a difference.
Well, and a lot of the depth of field effects too were really nice too. Like I thought that was really cool.
A lot of the movie had pretty deep depth of field. They wanted you to see what they were doing.
Like especially, I do remember this one's really subtle, but there was like a pillar or something off to the left side, and the focus was here. But I was like, that's a really cool effect because it was just, I don't know, something about that brought so much more depth to it that I was like, I could feel the depth to it because of that one stupid pillar on the left side of the screen that was way forward. And I was just like, that blew me away. I was really impressed by that. The one thing I will say though is, while I was very impressed by the 3D and long pan around shots, I think it's going to be a little bit like the Star Trek movie where there's a really long pan around of the Enterprise that's excessively long.
It's very similar in that when the motion picture came out, Star Trek had been off the air for a very long time, and then you get to see it on the big screen, and you're like, wow, the Enterprise, I'll look at this for 5 minutes. Tron's like, wow, we haven't seen Tron in 15 years on the big screen. Let's look at this.
Well, and the 3D effects look so cool that it's like, oh yeah, but when you flatten it down and you're going to watch it in 2D, I don't know if it'll give the same effect because it's not going to look as good.
Yes. Oh, look, I'm going to go on record as one of those people who doesn't like what Hollywood's doing with pushing premium formats. I look at showtimes at my local theater, and I'm constantly seeing Ultra AVX showings and 3D showings and progressively less regular showings because they can't charge as much general admission for it. They want, or like D-Box, like they're trying to really push premium formats at theaters lately. And because of that, out of moral principle, I tend to avoid them. Mm-hmm. Except for movies like this where you drag me into it and I'm like, yeah, you're probably right though, because it's a big effects movie and I knew it was going to look good.
Well, that's why I looked it up first, because I'm like, I feel like it's going to be one that's actually designed for 3D. And the movies that are shot and designed for 3D are rare and far between. But when they are done, it's done really well.
Usually it just says it's 3D so they can make you pay a couple extra bucks.
Yeah. And
but this is legit. This one's legit.
This one was, yeah. I thought this was really good. I'm actually considering going and seeing it in IMAX again because...
Interesting.
I was like, wait. It was also filmed for IMAX?
So I got a couple other quick points. Just a joke on the internet that Reddit talks about the color theory. They said how Tron Ares has such immaculate color theory. It's so deep and so complex.
Red means bad.
Red is bad.
Blue means good. It's so deep.
The entire color palette of this movie is basically red, blue, and black. It's gorgeous. It looks great. But like the color theory, basic. But you're just basing it on Tron. So Tron was like that 40 years ago. You're just following them. The other thing, another visual effects demonstration. One of the very first shots of the movie, I nearly felt like it was not a middle finger to Legacy, but just a kind of laughing behind his back. One of the very first shots of the movie is we see a de-aged Jeff Bridges. And I'm like, is this the movie saying it's 15 years on, we can do this better now?
just because they can.
Yeah, just because they can. And it was so intentional to have it I think it was the very first dialogue shot of the movie. It's like Jeff Bridges in the 80s doing an interview or something.
That's right.
And I'm like, you did this just because
you could.
Yeah.
Just because.
Like, yeah, a little bit for nostalgia points. Hey, it's Jeff Bridges, the first shot. But also for Legacy fans who are like, yeah, okay, it looks better now.
It looks better, fine.
You did better this time.
But Joe, did it look really good? Did it look better than any of the other de-aging effects we've seen?
It's looked about as good as de-aging's gotten in the last 5 years.
I think that's one of the best ones.
I think de-aging is pretty consistent now.
It seems like we've gotten it down finally.
Yep.
Now they just gotta, fix whatever weird thing they're doing with bringing people back from the dead, or maybe just not do that.
Well, just don't do that. The main problem with de-aging now is the fact that it's I mean, this could be an entirely separate discussion, but the problem with de-aging is that you still have aging actors' bodies and voices. So you can make their face look...
that voice doesn't work.
Like, 2 examples. Once again, this could be a totally different discussion. But I've seen people bring up examples of Robert De Niro in The Irishman. You can make him look like a 40-year-old man, but he's still moving like an 80-year-old man. And Harrison Ford in Dial of Destiny. You can make him look like 30-year-old Indy, but he still sounds like 80-year-old Harrison Ford. So it kind of breaks the illusion.
No, I want to watch that movie.
The effect is so good. The facial effect is really good, but he doesn't sound like Harrison Ford from the 80s, you know? And that's the problem with it. Jeff Bridges still sounds enough like himself that... Or maybe they did some vocal effects on there as well.
Yeah.
That, I'm sure, is also a factor. Because I think studios are catching on. Yeah, I'm sure there's other things to say, but I think Tron Ares is worth a watch in 3D if you feel like springing for it, especially.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its weak points, but it's consistently entertaining and pretty, so, you know, what more do you want from a movie like this? Like, if you're somebody who hated Tron right from the get-go, this isn't going to convince you, but as a casual Tron fan, I think it's about on par with the other ones. I don't like it much more or worse.
As somebody who actually likes the Tron movies a lot,
yeah.
This was my favorite one.
Okay.
By far. I'm sure that some people will flame me for that.
I think you'll get flamed by saying by far. Not that. I think that's the part.
It's true. That's my
is that the fact that it's your favorite? It's the fact that it's by far. That's the flaming worthy part.
Hey man, if I said anything but the original, somebody will flame me. But you know what? I'm gonna say it. I don't like the original that much. It's pretty dated.
Me neither. It's a tech demo.
It's a tech demo. The story's kind of interesting. I did like the story, but
it's a tech demo for Tron Legacy. They got it right 30 years later.
It's still good for its time.
Well, it's incredible for its time.
Yeah. It is a cinematic, part of cinema history, basically.
It's a time capsule, but I wouldn't convince most people to watch it. Just people who are like, hey, you like film history?
Do you like movies? Yeah. Do you like movies enough to watch something that looks really dated? Sure. Okay, then maybe you can watch Tron.
It's one of those, wow, you did this in the 80s before computers were really powerful? And like anything could just do CGI?
Like there's older movies, but
nothing that was trying something like that.
Yeah. It's just, it's a little painful to watch nowadays.
Yeah, and the visual style, despite not really liking it, is incredibly unique.
It is unique, that's for sure.
Well, that's why I guess I could bring that up. I like how they tried to recreate it going into this movie. One of the coolest scenes is when they go into the original grid, and like even like the black and white look on their face, and the low resolution CGI on the light cycles, and like, okay, yeah,
it was a cleaned up version, but it was good. I like that. That was a little bit of a throwback. That was cool.
Yeah, it was good.
And it didn't overstay its welcome.
No,
which was nice.
They showed it and got out. So, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at jchurchtpm.
And check out thoughtplane.ca for hundreds of written reviews and film posts for free. We hope to see you on the next close-up. Till next time. He did the thing.
Did he do the thing?
He did the thing. He did the thing.
He had to do the thing.
He did the thing.
Yeah, he did, but only because he needed to get out of the original grid.
He did the thing.
He had to do the thing. He didn't do the thing because they wanted him to do the thing. He did the thing because that was the place they were.